Hey everybody, welcome to Drive Thru Review 232. Today I'm going to talk about Cheaty Mages. This is a new release from AEG, designed by Seiji Kanai, who did Love Letter. So this was originally printed in Japan in 2008 and is just now hitting the shores here in the United States. It plays 3 to 6 players, and I would say that you want to play this right in the 4 to 5 player range. I plays fine with 3, I haven't played it with 6. But it just, you kind of miss a little bit of something with only 3 players there. Now, this game most reminds me of a somewhat older game called Colossal Arena, or even earlier it was called Titan Arena. Now, Fantasy Flight produces Colossal Arena, and we really have enjoyed that game. I really like that game, except it has kind of a problem with how the end of the game resolves. It's just kind of wonky. There's a couple of different rules variants and things like that. It's a really fun game. And funnily enough, that one actually plays best with 3. So this one is similar in theme and a little bit similar in mechanics. So basically, each player is a Cheaty mage, and they're kind of placing bets on an arena battle from these different monsters and creatures. And then also kind of trying to secretly cast spells on them to sort of reduce the power of some, increase the powers. You maybe bluff a little bit with your spell casting. And then there's going to be kind of a judge that's a card that you have to sort of maneuver around and consider, the effect of the judge on the current battle, to change up your spell casting. So let me tell you how it works, and I'll come back and tell you what I think. Okay, here you can see all the components in the games. There's a couple of different decks of cards. You've got your little money tokens here, and each player is going to start off with $2. And then each player is going to get a set of these betting tickets here, and these are the yellow-backed cards like so. And so each player is going to get a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, and a 5. Well, you're also going to, if you have less than 6 players, you can take sort of and set these out in a row or a column of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that is going to signify which fighter you will be betting on. So you've got a deck of fighter cards here, and you can see there's different guys: Dark Elf, Ghost, Lizard Man, Orc. And all of these guys have a power, so sort of like their strength, and then the prize money if they win the battle. So if the Orc wins, whoever bet on them is going to get $8 roughly. So there's a little bit of a trick with that, but that's basically what the prize is that's going to be awarded. And so you're going to deal out the 1 through 5, and then deal out 5 of these cards here, and then put them next to the cards. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'll set this up in a second. So you're going to have these are going to get shuffled up each round. You're going to play 3 rounds, and then you're going to be basically betting on them. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to take a look at which one that you think is going to win. Now the first thing that you're going to consider are the cards that are up, as well as the deck of these magic cards here that you're going to get. Now based on the number of players, you're going to get a certain number of these cards in your hand, and then be able to refill up to a certain amount in between each round. So you can see these cards have some different characteristics on them. So the first thing to notice here is some of the basic ones will modify the power of one of the characters. So if you played this on the Orc, he would modify his power actually to be negative in this case. The other thing to keep in mind is the amount of mana that this power is going to use or generate. Also the card type. So this is an enchant. We've got some support cards, and we've also got some direct cards here. So there's little direct cards there. And then some of these are marked with a little forbidden thing. This doesn't really have any significance in terms of gameplay, other than the judges maybe won't let you play any cards with that icon on it. And the judges may also maybe won't let you play any cards with this icon on it. So everybody's going to get a hand of these cards. Then you're going to take a look and see which fighters are up in the display. You're going to make your bets, and all you're going to do is you're not actually going to bet any money. You're just going to basically make your pick. So if you pick one fighter, and then that fighter ends up having the most power, and he's still in the match, you're going to get double the prize. So if this guy was the number 1, and the only bet you placed on was by putting this 1 ticket face down, you'd actually get $10. Now if you had bet for, let's say, the 1 and the 3, you're kind of hedging your bet. So if this guy was the number 1 and you bet on him, you would only get the exact prize money because you bet on 2. If you bet on 3 different fighters, then you're going to, and this guy were to win, you would get half of his money. So that's how the game's going to work. You're going to set these up, and I'll show that in a second. You're going to pick and bet, 1, 2, or 3 of them, and then you're going to take turns playing these magic cards. So let's set this up. So here we've got a sample setup here. We got the 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And again, if you wanted to bet on the demon to win, you'd put your 3 down and maybe any other cards. There are 2 of these monsters here that are kind of like undead. There's a ghost and there's also a skeleton. And this fighter actually inverts the power. So any negative power cards are actually going to be positive for him, and any plus power cards are going to be negative. So we can see that all of the monsters have different powers and different payouts. Now the higher the power, the lower the payout, because they have a higher likelihood to win. So you can see he's got a 9 power and a 3 payout, where he's got a 4 power and a 6 payout. So after everybody has dealt their cards, they're going to take turns playing 1 card at a time. And there's a sort of a myriad of effects. A lot of the more basic ones is like this one here is a direct card. All direct cards you'll put face up next to the monster there, so this would actually reduce his power if we were to resolve that. Support cards will do all kinds of different things. So discard target spell, including enduring spell, so I can do that, play that, and then discard both cards. Here's a healing one. This will give you positive, might, positive. There's a reflection here. We can look at this. So this is enduring. Basically means it'll stay out. This says no spell can target this fighter or any other spells. So you basically put that on to kind of lock it down. Somebody's going to have to actually remove the reflection first before basically, trying to wipe the fighter out or playing any, positive or negative spells on the fighter. Let's see. You can move target spells around. Target player discards a card. So that's kind of the direct cards and the support cards. The direct cards are just going to be, you're going to play them and they're face up. Sometimes the support will be face up in front of a card. You can maybe play it on a player and things like that. Now there's also enchantments here, and you can see that there. These are to be played face down. So you put those face down, and then you don't know what it is. It could be -8 or it could be +8. You don't know. Now the other thing to consider here is the mana cost, so the amount of mana the spell takes into account. Now this is a big part of what these judges are about. So there's a whole stack of these judges here, and before each round you're going to flip one of these up, and it's going to give you some information here. So a lot of judges are going to disallow certain cards. So while this judge is face up, you're not allowed to play support cards. There's also a mana limit here of 12. Well, if you ever exceed 12 mana, so if we had both of these cards, let's say, played here, that would actually be 16 mana. And that's going to break this judge's rule. So there's going to be 2 types of judgments that'll happen if they go over the mana. So the first type of judgment is a dispel. Basically that means once the round is over, if anybody's over that amount of mana, the judge will dispel all the cards applied to that creature. Now the other one is going to be eject here. You can see this judge has a mana limit of 12 as well, and the judgment is going to be to eject, and that's actually going to just get rid of that monster. So it's possible if you dispel all the cards, this card could still win if it had the highest power, but there's no chance of that if you eject it totally from the match here. And you can see this one disallows direct, this one will disallow support and forbidden, and things like that. Some of these have a little different effects and things, like this guy will basically let anything go. And there's also cards that will let you, if you have a judge out, you don't like it, you can play a card to discard the judge and draw a new one, and all kinds of things like that. So basically you're going to be playing cards, and then once you pass, you're going to be out of that round of play, and then keep playing until everybody passes, and then you're going to resolve all the cards. You're going to flip up any face down cards, check for the mana limit on any of these, check for any of these cards that may be illegal, because one thing you can actually do is, let's say you just wanted to bluff, you could just take and put a direct card face down. Well, that's illegal. You're not supposed to be able to play those face down. So what happens when you reveal it, that's going to get discarded. But what you're basically doing is bluffing that you played some kind of enchantment. And based on how the other cards are out, you maybe kind of think that you're trying to back this character, you're trying to eliminate this character, and things like that. So there's a lot of sort of bluffing and things that can happen there. So you're going to flip this up, get rid of any illegal cards, get rid of any that go over the mana, and then again, whoever bet on the card with the most power is going to get a payout of either double, the same, or half, depending on how many of these betting tickets they had face down in front of them. Now at the end of the round, you're going to be able to draw new cards out of the deck. So let's say in a 3-player game you have 8 cards is your hand limit. That's how many you start with. Now at the end of the round you can draw up to 8 cards, or plus 4 cards. So if you had 4 cards here, you could draw back up to 8. But if you had 5 cards, then you can't draw 4. You're basically capped out at 8. So it's kind of interesting because in a lot of games like this, you basically draw back up to your hand size, draw back up to your hand size. This one you have to be real considerate about spending too many cards, because you maybe, you get down to like 4 or 5 cards or 3, and you're like, okay, I'm going to play this one because I really think this is going to change it. And then you're basically going to be down a card for the next round. Now you can also get rid of any cards that you don't like before you go into your draw phase. So you're going to play 3 rounds. Every round you're going to shuffle up all of the monsters back into the deck, and then you may see some of the ones that you saw come out in earlier rounds and things like that. You're going to get a new judge. And then in the last round, you can play illegal cards if you pay $2 per card. So this one actually disallows support. So in the final third round, you can pay $2, however, to break that rule. So you start the game with $2 because it's feasible that you don't win anything in the first 2 rounds. So at least you have $2 to play 1 illegal card in the third round. However, you should have won some money, and so you can again kind of spend that and try to maybe get around and try to maybe get the big payout on the last round if you only focused on betting on one of the fighters. And that's pretty much the game. Okay, I hope you enjoyed the overview. As you can see, it's a pretty basic game. You're just kind of playing cards, trying to outguess each other. It is very interesting. I would say that, sort of alluding to my comment at the beginning of the review, you want to kind of have a few more players to get some shifts going on with the betting tickets. Now, if you play with 3, you can kind of get into a situation where you're forced to maybe make a suboptimal kind of bet, because in the first round that will kind of dictate a lot of the rest of the game. Now, that's not to say I think that the game is bad with 3, because you can get into situations where you sort of cooperate if you could sort of suss out that, okay, me and you are kind of going for the same fighter, so we're going to kind of play off each other, and you can kind of have a little bit of table talk, like, okay, well, I'm going to just take this dragon down because I know Billy across the table really wants it, but me and you, we want number 4 to happen, and then we're going to win that way. So there's a kind of cool kind of teamwork that's going to sort of ebb and flow and evolve across the rounds, and that's something that the Colossal Arena had in spades, and really like that sort of a co-opetition that kind of naturally evolves, through the table talk and sort of the evolution of the game, round through round. This one has it in spades. The nice thing about this one is the end game is really neat, because you can spend those $2 to play some of those illegal cards that you can't normally play. And I also like the bluffing, because you could just throw down like a total garbage card and put it face down. Nobody knows that that's really a meaningful enchantment or just garbage, and you're bluffing and you're getting rid of a stupid card that you don't want. So there's a lot of nice wrinkles to this. And when you add on above the 3 players, the co-opetition is a little bit harder to suss out, and I like that about it. Where 3 players, it's kind of like, okay, you kind of line up with sort of a bash the leader idea, and then it just becomes a little bit too clear cut about what's going to happen on the board and what needs to happen. But it's okay. I like it with 3, and I'll totally play it with 3 anytime. But it's better with the 4, and I assume it would be really kind of maybe too chaotic with 6. So I think like I said, I don't think it would be bad with 6, but it definitely needs that nice middle ground. So I don't know what else to say about the game. It's very simple, very quick. The 3 rounds does feel a little bit short. I don't know how you would change that. You could just play an extra round and then maybe move the whole paying for illegal cards into the last round. But maybe if you went too many rounds, then you'd have too much of a runaway leader. It would just kind of go on too long. As it is, you could just play a second game. It does play quickly. The box does say 30 minutes, and it does kind of fall right into that, especially as you add more players, just because there's some consideration to be had. With the cards that you play. It may seem like it's just kind of, you're just playing cards willy-nilly. You're totally not doing that. You definitely need to think about it. Especially as, I should make this point, those cards that reverse the negative and positive, that makes it pretty interesting, because there are some cards that, they cost a lot, and they're going to give you like plus 10 power or minus 10 power. And so that can be kind of interesting to, if you get a nice mix of those, and it's like, okay, I've got some nice negative ones here. Now, do I play those early? You know, that's not usually a good idea, but I can kind of hold them either to kind of destroy somebody or maybe, you know, increase another one. And you're going to see your hand of cards before you bet as well. And so there's a lot of sort of, you know, eyeballing across the table that kind of happens there. But yeah, it's a very interesting game, and you know, the amount of the whole idea of like putting the 1, 2, and 3 betting tickets out is interesting, because you know, as you get behind, you kind of have to go and bet for one, which can be frustrating. But maybe you can get some folks to work with you, because you know you're kind of falling behind and they're kind of in second or third place, and so you can kind of help bring them up that way and stuff like that. So really cool game, very, you know, sort of compact, you know, very streamlined game that this designer is kind of known for. And definitely I think this is one of his stronger games. I mean, I don't really want to compare this to Love Letter or Lost Legacy, because it's a really different experience. But I like the bluffing and deduction thing that he has in his games. And I really like the theme of this arena battle. And like I said, I really enjoy that sort of emergent co-opetition that happens, not enforced by game rules, but just enforced by the nature of, you know, who has the most money, what kind of cards do I have, how many guys am I going to bet on, all that stuff. It's a really fun experience to, you know, see that alliances kind of shift over a game. So anyway, that is Cheaty Mages. Thanks.